VMs. As I told you, these VMs also include your licensing cost of your Windows Server. So let's move on to the demo now. I'm back to the browser. I already have a virtual network. Now what I do is I create a new virtual machine. So when I create a new virtual machine, again I have an option to choose what kind of virtual machine I want. Do I want a Windows Server 2008 or a 12 virtual machine, or I can choose a suite of Linux OSs for my virtual machine. Let's say I want Windows Server 2012, and then what size I want. We just we just spoke about the sizes. The sizes vary from extra small, small, medium, and that. So, or if you don't want to choose this option, you can go ahead and choose huge set of images from here as well. So I can have a pre-configured SQL Server machine with a Windows Server 2008 R2 and SQL Server 2012. Similarly, I can have BizTalk and a combination of Windows Server 2012. This is one way where you can look for various images. Your existing machines and images will come here under My Image and My Disk. If you want more images, you can simply go and browse set of images which are there from the virtual machine depot. So if you go here, you can see a huge set of virtual machines available pre-configured. For example, if you see this Apache, you have Apache server on Linux into this image. So you can choose which image to use for. So let me quickly go to virtual machine, and I'll create a virtual machine which has plain Windows Server 2008 SP1. Now, when was it released? You can see this image was released. Which version of that you want? I want the latest version, which was released recently. Virtual machine name, administrator, username is administrator, password I can specify. So this becomes my password for the username administrator. Then I can choose which one do I want from here. Do I want a standalone virtual machine or connect to an existing virtual machine? As I mentioned earlier, you can connect to an existing virtual machine to do load balancing. You recollect what I said earlier. So you can do a load balancing between this as well. So I select a standalone as of now. Now this virtual machine will have a disk. This virtual machine will have a VSD where this virtual machine disk should be stored. Again, go back to what we discussed earlier. It should be stored in some storage account. I can create a new storage account automatically, or I can choose which one to have. Now here is the key. Where do I deploy this virtual machine? I can deploy this virtual machine in a specific region, or I can choose to pick up the virtual network which I created earlier. So I'm specifying, okay, this virtual network I want to host this virtual machine on this virtual network, and in which subnet. Again, depending on what you choose, the IP of that machine will be from that particular subnet. And then I can choose a new result. Again, this is from a failover perspective. And now I start creating a virtual machine. Remember, I had given the default username called as administrator, for which I had given my own password. And once this virtual machine is provisioned, you can see that you also have a disk which you can associate to that. So it will take around 2 to 3 minutes to provision this particular thing. So at the same time, what you can do is, while this gets provisioned, I'll continue further and create one more virtual machine from a gallery, and here in this case I will select Linux. So I do this as well. I can choose what username I want. I can choose what kind of VM size I want to choose, and then start creating again a standalone virtual machine. Choose a specific subnet again, or in this time I can choose a normal region as well. So anything that we want to do, and then create something, some availability set from a load from a availability perspective for failover. And here you can see the status of the virtual machines getting provisioned, what is the DNS name for the virtual machine, and now to this virtual machine that I have, I can go ahead and even connect to this virtual machine. So normally how do you connect to a server? You will do a remote desktop. So same thing, I can select the virtual machine, I can say connect, and this is going to create a ready-made RDP file, a remote desktop connection file for me, which I can save for me and start connecting to that virtual machine. So complete virtual machine gets provisioned for you based on the options that you have chosen, and then you have an option to restart, shut down, or you can even attach a new disk to the virtual machines. So while this gets provisioned, you can see you can create again images from here and then attach those VMs or use those images to go ahead and create your virtual machines. You can see automatically the disks are getting created. This is a disk which has got created, which is attached to the first virtual machine whose OS is Windows under what subscription, and then it also gives you what is the location where this virtual machine hard disk is actually stored. So this is how the disk gets created. And if I go back to the slide, this is precisely what I was trying to refer to. We chose a virtual machine, we chose the image for the virtual machine.